Hi guys, a very good evening to all of the people who have joined the webinar session. So, chatbots, virtual assistant frameworks are widely being used. It's been adopted now to automate help desk services. Conversational AI is being widely adopted for frequently asked questions, which would have multi-step answers. For example, a very common question across all the apps would be how to reset my account's password. So, which would have multi-step answers. Uh, that is probably step-by-step instructions, which the call representative would be giving us, right? But the analogy is same, but the steps are going to get different across different products, right? So, conversational AI kind of frameworks are being widely adopted to address such kind of use cases. Today we have Lizzie, who's a technophile with over a decade of industry experience in technical and leadership role. She is working as a technical manager at Valorum Reply, and she leads a team of digital transformation consultants. She's so passionate about emerging technologies and also a very delightful and interested person in AI-powered experiences to provide for global clients all around the world. A very warm welcome, Lizzie.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Yeah. Can we start the session, Lizzie?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
Please
Dinesh,
share this.
for that. Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. All right. I'm assuming that is live. All right. So thank you, folks, for taking time to join on a Saturday evening. And it's very exciting to talk to you about an area that I'm very, very passionate about. A little introduction about myself, though Dinesh did steal a little of my thunder there. So I'm a technical manager with Valorum Reply, and my focus areas are specifically around Azure AI. So that involves conversational AI, Azure Cognitive Services, Azure Cognitive Search, and all the technologies under Azure AI umbrella. And some of the things that I really like is solving problems, problem solving, and tech for good that includes AI for good. I love to work in great teams, build and work in great teams, and of course, I live in books. So if you'd like to stay connected, that's where you'll probably find me. I'm a little lazy on Twitter, but you'll find me on LinkedIn and blog posts as well. Um, all right, so let's quickly look at the agenda of the day. Given that we come from various backgrounds and some of us might or may not have a precedence with conversational AI, so we'll start by taking a look at the history of conversational AI. What is conversational AI? And before we look into what is Microsoft's offering in this space, then we will deep dive into the star of the evening, which is the Bot Framework Composer, the tool that we are going to use to build these chatbots. And it will be a demo heavy session, and we'll finally open it up for Q&A. So if you do have any comments or any questions, I encourage you to use the chat, and please send in your questions and comments. We're happy to take it at the end of the session. All right, so let's get started. So here's the evolution of chatbots. And just like other applications we have seen in the industry, our industry, specifically the IT industry, has been through a lot of changes in the past couple of decades. We started with the PC era where people were using desktop applications. And then with the internet era, people were using websites and web applications. Then, when the mobile era came, people started downloading smart phone applications from the Play Store and all. And now we have what is touted as the AI era, right? So, with the advent of AI, how the paradigm has shifted in terms of the nature of the applications. People used to use websites, then web applications, then smartphone applications, and now we're almost looking at a place where we don't have an interface per se anymore. What's most exciting for me in this space is Traditionally, if you look at all the previous kinds of applications, humans had to learn the language of the machine. Even if it was a beautiful website or a great web application or an amazing smartphone application that could help you do what you wanted to, buy things or log things, or for whatever purpose that you expected of that application, you would still need to find your way around the application. You'd still need to know how to get your things done, which button to click, which button not to click, where to type a text, which what is the navigation structure in my website. How I go about doing things is something I need to learn with every new application and every new website that I come into contact with. It might seem very trivial at this point in time because we're so used to that navigation paradigm. But if you kind of take a step back and think about it, they have always put the humans at a position where we have to learn how to deal with and how to interact with these machines and these machine applications. Come conversational AI or chatbots, this equation changes. And how it changes is like this. Historically, humans have used conversation or storytelling, so to speak, from prehistoric times to communicate. How you and I communicate is by using human language. And that same human language can now be leveraged to talk to machines. And how exciting is that? So, for one, perhaps I've said this before, the first time in technological history, humans and machines are talking the same language, and that is the human language. Now, we don't have to learn how to get things done in an application or in a website. The machine will be able to understand specifically what is required from us, and all that we need to do is just speak the way we normally do. So I can speak with a chatbot application just the way I speak with you, and that mode of interaction is perhaps the biggest highlight when it comes to AI chatbots or conversational AI chatbots. That said, I'll take one more step back and ask ourselves, what exactly is a chatbot? Because again, there are a lot of names that is doing the rounds. People talk conversational agents, virtual agents, personal assistants, chatbots. Obviously, there are differences, there are nuances that are different between all of these terms. But at the end of the day, a chatbot is a computer program. And that software does nothing, it just gets things done the way other applications do. But the highlight is it simulates human conversation. So the way you can interact with a chatbot, by either using text or by using voice commands, or maybe a combination of both. You can type, you can tap, you can speak to it. And it can either be a standalone system like you have Alexa and Siri, or it can be also incorporated into your website or inside your SharePoint or any existing platform. So that's in a nutshell what a chatbot is. Now, what can a chatbot do, or what all can a chatbot do? That depends on your specific use case. You can build chatbots for doing very simple things like setting an alarm or telling you the weather or even booking your dinner reservation, your dentist appointment. It completely is left to your imagination and your specific business case on what you would want that chatbot to do. Why would people use chatbots given that they have a lot of other options? They have web applications, they have websites, there are smartphone applications, so many ways. You can even just call up a person. Why would a person use a chatbot? One, and we've already discussed this, it feels less like using a computer. At least it should feel less like using a computer, and it should be so intuitive. It should feel like you're using or you're talking with another person. And a chatbot is something that's available 24/7. It does not take PTOs. It is immediately available for a response. So, for customers who are, not used to long waiting lines and long queues, so this is a huge benefit. The initial investment in creating a chatbot in terms of your skills and your team and everything, your infrastructure, could be a little, but in the long run, the return on investment will definitely show you that it is reduced cost. You can reach new channels. If you have customers in Facebook or in Twitter or in, any of the other channels, you don't have to bring them to your website. You take your chatbot to those platforms. So you take your offering to where your customers already are, and that gives you a huge benefit. And of course, overall, it increases the engagement and the customer experience as well. So here's a little bit on the history of the chatbot. Most people think that Alexa and Siri are the first chatbots in the world, but that's not true. You can see the chatbots have actually existed way from the 1950s and 60s. And even looking into the future, industrial trends show that we have all reasons to be very positive about our excitement in this space. One of the statistics say that by 2025, 95 percentage of the customer interactions will be using these bots, either by telephony or by online bots. And a lot of brands, a lot of companies have already started investing in this. If you look at any major brand in the world, every brand has a chatbot offering that is associated with it. It could be Domino's, it could be Marriott, it could be Sephora. And this is not limited to only the big players, right? So it could be the small scale industry players, it could be the medium, the large scale, the on-prem, the on-cloud, retail, finance, hospitality. So across sectors and across domains. And typically, we think it's just these specific application areas. There are good use cases of very interesting and innovative chatbot experiences. For example, Do Not Pay is a chatbot that it was developed as a normal chatbot in the UK to help with ticketing fines, but now it's grown into a legal services chatbot where you if you I don't think this is there in India, but in the UK, a little bit in the US, you can actually help claim compensation through that chatbot. And another one is Margot. So Margot is an AI wine chatbot. So it helps customers pick the best wine that can go along with their food. Wobot is an innovative chatbot that is helping people deal with depression. So this is a very advanced chatbot that's built around the principles of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So researchers have come together with the scientific team and the development team have come together to create this chatbot. So people suffering from clinical depression, and you talk to that chatbot, you can actually feel a lot better. So there are a lot of specific use cases around innovative chatbots as well. And as we wind up this first section on the history and the growth of this chatbots, let's debunk a few chatbot myths we may have had coming into the session. So one, chatbots are a new technology. We know that's a myth now because this technology has been there for a long time. It's just getting relevant these days and developing because AI proliferation itself is happening. And along with that, there's a lot of availability of big data and advanced computing models, and infrastructure is also getting better, cloud service providers. So a lot of platforms that are getting popular. And for that reason, chatbots are not a new technology, but it's just getting more relevant and more importance these days. And if you thought that chatbots can only support customer service, now you know that it can actually support very different use cases, and it's only left to your imagination. Now, all bots use AI is really a myth. You may have encountered bots that will strictly follow a specific script. It does not know to answer any question that is outside that script. It feels very tightly scoped and programmed. So, those are rule based chatbots. AI chatbots are far more intelligent because it makes use of intelligent services, and we'll talk a little about that in the coming time. There's a, a rumor or myth doing the round that chatbots versus humans, or chatbots are going to take all the human jobs and we're going to go out of business, which is probably not true. We need to look at it as a team of both bots as well as humans. Even in the typical customer service scenario, imagine if a chatbot could take a certain percentage, that at least the first 30 to 40 percentage of those frontline queries. It really frees up the customer service agent to do far more creative tasks and far more important tasks, right? So a team of these bots and humans can prove to be very crucial and very critical for any business. And the last myth is chatbots are difficult to build. So I will leave you with that, and we can probably answer that in the next few minutes on how difficult or easy it is to actually build a chatbot. So, moving on to the next section, which is the Microsoft's offering in this space. Satya prophetically said a few Microsoft builds back. So this is about 5 or 6 years back. And he said, human language is the new layer, UI layer, and bots are like the new applications. And he wasn't very wrong in that. In fact, he was not at all. And it's interesting because from then, Microsoft has a lot of serious investments in this space, and everything has been around the Azure AI platform. So, if you look at the Azure AI platform at a very high level, at a 10K overview, you'll see that it provides infrastructure. Now, this is something we are familiar with. So, it has Cosmos DB, SQL DB, a lot of this that we use. It provides the required CPU, GPU, FPGA, and so the data as well as the compute part that is taken care of by the Azure infrastructure. It also provides AI services. So you can create custom AI, which is what we typically, our data science teams do by using Azure machine learning and of the sort. We can also have some pre-built AI services. So the developer community who's got zero machine learning expertise, who's got zero data science skills, they can start using these pre-built AI services to build intelligent applications. One kind of intelligent application is a chatbot. And also, to help with the entire journey, Microsoft also provides all the tools and the techniques that are required by the developer community. It's some of our favorite tools that we use on a daily basis. So, deep dive into the area that we are interested in, conversational AI. Now, Microsoft's flagship offering in this space is Bot Service, or what is otherwise called the Azure Bot Service. Azure Bot Service, uh, it's good to talk lightly about that because that was an initial offering before the bot framework composer came, and that was what was used by the developers. Though we will not be looking a lot into the details of that, I'd like to show you around the Azure Bot Service so you appreciate the transition, and how we are looking at bot framework composer and how the two are connected as well. So here's a look at the bot development life cycle, right? So if you're from a software background and you are familiar with the software development life cycle, this is similar to that. You have a bot development life cycle. I call it the BDLC, just like the SDLC. So initially you would plan for the bot, you would build the bot, you would test it, you're happy with it, you would publish it probably to Azure or AWS or any of the cloud services, and then you would connect it. So publish is a little different from connect. When you say publish, the API, you're publishing the bot, and it's got an API that anyone can connect to. You've told the world that you have a bot. Connect is where you deploy the bot to a specific channel. You are hosting the bot to some preset channels, for example, Facebook, Slack, Twitter, Teams, etc., even maybe your custom website. So that's the point of connection. Once connected, your customers start using it. Your audience base starts using your chatbot. And this is where the real work starts, is you need to look at how your bot is behaving and how it's performing. Is it answering the questions well? What are the things that was not able to answer? You evaluate all of that, maybe get insights, maybe power it to your Power BI reports, and then you go back to your drawing board. You again build, test, publish, connect, evaluate. So that's a cycle there. So this is at a very high level how teams generally approach a bot development. So, as we discussed, the Azure Bot Service offering from Microsoft was intended to help the bot development lifecycle. All the steps that we just discussed previously was helped or could be done with the help of the Azure Bot Service, including the connection to various channels that you can see on screen. These are some of the default channels that are available from Microsoft. Simply put, what that means is if you create a bot using Microsoft's bot framework or Azure Bot and hosted in Azure Bot Service, you can connect that same bot with a single source code solution to Teams, to Kick, to Slack, to all these channels without any changes in the source code. So it's just the single source code that can be connected to these multiple channels. So it's a huge gain for the development teams. So let me quickly show you around the Azure Bot Service, though we'll not take a lot of time on that, but and I can there. So that is my Azure portal. So I'm inside my Azure portal, and if you would like to try this today, you can either use your Azure subscription or you can sign up for a free Azure subscription as well. You get a few credits and you can get started with this. So how I would go about creating an Azure bot service is I would create a resource. So non-developers and non-techies feel free to completely ignore this part. This is just to show you the link between the Azure Bot Service and the bot framework composer here. So what a developer used to do is go here and search for bot. If you search for bot, you get a couple of resources. So you have the Azure bot. Right? This is what I want to create. And I hit create. It will ask me what is the name of my bot, my location I want to host it in, my resource group, subscription, a few parameters. I hit create and my bot is done. So it takes a few minutes. So which is why I have my bot already created. Once created, this is what I get. Okay. So let me show you around this place. So one of my bots that I had created, I can you have the provision to test within the chat window itself. And here, this is the interesting section I wanted to show you regarding the channels. So as we were discussing, channels were areas that you can just with a single click you can really post it to Alexa, to Facebook, to Outlook, just a few parameters you might need to provide for each of these. And you can deploy the same bot to any of these channels as you'd like. You can also create your own channel because the bot framework SDK is open source. It is extensible. You can create your custom channels if need be. If you want to put it on your custom website, you would, try for the web chat channel. So that's where you go about. Now, if I have to go back to the overview section here, now here you build enterprise grade conversational AI. Now you see here that there are actually two options. You can either open it in a tool that is called the Bot Framework Composer, or you can build it with the Bot Framework SDK. Now this was what traditionally the developers used to do. Right? So what we would do is, I would go to my favorite IDE, Visual Studio. I would create a new project, and if I select bot, I get a lot of bot templates. If you're wondering where I got those bot templates from, that's available for download, and I would just create it. And this solution that I'm creating, you can imagine I can publish it back into that same Azure Bot Service, right? So that's how the whole thing is connected. Yeah. So here I'm not, changing any line of code, though I want to show you around that, just to um, here. So here's all the code that is connected. This is really an eco bot that we have created. Consider it as the hello world bot of chatbot. So whatever you tell the bot, it will just echo back. That's all that it does. Not super useful, but just to get us started, right? So you can imagine the amount of code that is there behind this, right? So a developer would have to work around all these pieces of code. If you run it, the bot would run on your local machine. There is another tool that you get to download. It's called the Bot Framework Emulator. So you can imagine to test your bot or to interact with your bot, you need a tool. Only then can you send it message and it can talk back to you, right? So this is now your bot is live. It is there. It is available in local host. So that's done. You should ideally be publishing it to Azure once you are complete with development. But now, for now, I know that my bot is running locally. It's at 3978. And this is the tool that I was talking about, Bot Framework Emulator. Just Google it. You can download it. This is also from Microsoft. It's a free tool. Let me connect it to 3978. And I know that my bot is now running at localhost 3978 API messages. I'm just going to connect to it. And if I connect to it, I see it says hello and welcome. Now, whatever I send it, it's just going to echo back, right? Hi, hello, hey, it's going to echo back. So that's my echo bot. Then what I would do is I would come back here again, work around all of this, build my code, build my dialogues, a lot of work in terms of code that we need to do. Let's go back to our slides and let's see that. So in terms of the Azure Bot Service, it does a fabulous job in giving us a platform where we can plan, build, test, publish, connect, and evaluate. No questions. So, what is the bot framework composer? If we have to go back for a second, one option that we had was building with the bot framework SDK. So that's the code first approach that we saw. Another approach that we have is by opening the bot framework composer, opening this bot in bot framework composer. If I hit here, it will just open in bot framework composer. So before we go into the demo of bot framework composer, let's just discuss what it is. So what is the bot framework composer? It is a tool, it's an open source IDE that helps you create and manage these conversational experiences, or it helps you to, visually edit the canvas for building bots. If you're familiar with the visual designer tool of Visual Studio, you can drag or drop your toolbox components and you can actually build out your UIs. So that is the benefit that you get by getting Bot Framework Composer. It is not a no-code tool, but it is a low-code tool. So if you have a conversational designer on your team, or you have a business analyst who's working closely with the customers, he or she does not want to mess around with the C# code or the Node.js code, but they have a very good idea of how the conversations should flow. What is the structure and what is the script that needs to be followed? If they know that, they can use this tool to draw out, to visually, script those conversation flows, and they can hand it over to the developer. So what can I do in the composer? You can create and you can manage bots. More specifically, you can create a bot, you can add text and speech responses. You can test within this tool itself. You don't have to go outside to the emulator or to the Azure Bot Service, though you can go to the emulator, we'll see. You can integrate with external APIs. You can add a lot more powerful services like Q&A and other natural language capabilities. We'll talk about that. Once these designs have been created, and if you want to hand it over to the developer to do far more sophisticated tasks, you can export the code also and give it to them. What that means is, you will see as we look into the bot framework composer, we are only visually editing it on screen. In the background, the bot framework composer is actually composing the source code for you. At the end of the day, you can export that entire source code as a zip package and you can hand it over to the development team. As powerful as the bot framework composer is, there might be certain things that it cannot do in terms of a full-fledged powerful bot. For example, integrating with a third-party system. There's another external system that you need to integrate. That requires a lot more coding that is required. For that, you might need to have a developer on your team. So you can do the best of whatever you would like to do with the composer and then have that handed over to your coder, to your developer, who can take it up from there. You can continue to revise your edits in the bot framework composer. So it helps for collaboration in your team. The developer can also use the bot framework composer, but it's just saying that it helps in a lean team. And ultimately, you can publish your bot back to Azure Bot Service, just like we saw it from the composer itself. You can directly publish it to the Azure Bot Service. So why should I use the composer? Right. So if you are looking to design your conversational experiences in a designer, you want to see the flow rather than, you don't get to see everything on screen. If you go by a code first approach, then probably the composer is where you need to take a look at. Just take a look at the time. We're doing well. Okay. Now, how do I get the composer? So very easy. Just Google for bot framework composer. You have two variants. One, you can either download the desktop application, or if you go to GitHub, you get the entire source code itself. You can deploy it as a web-based component as well. You can run it that way. Now, before we dive into the demo, a couple of concepts that we need to discuss at a very high level, right? So, three things: dialogues, actions, and triggers. One, what are dialogues? It's just the same dialogues that we use in our human conversation. So, those dialogues, if you look at the structure of an entire conversation between two humans, that entire conversation will be based out of some major dialogue. So every dialogue is a building block or component of functionality. So that dialogue is a combination of several dialogues, or a sum up of all those dialogues is what actually makes for an entire conversation. So each dialogue in our case, will represent a certain section of the bot's functionality. We will be building dialogues shortly, and we'll see how that works. So you have a main bot, and you'll have several child dialogues underneath that. So those building blocks of functionality is what is called dialogues. Another thing is triggers and actions. So the triggers are the actual rules that tell the bot, you've got an incoming message and you need to process. Literally, in an absolute literal sense, it is a trigger for the bot. Once a trigger is fired, what does the bot do, or what should the bot be doing? That is the action. So if you have to put it very simply, when an event happens, for example, the user is asking the bot a question. That is an event, right? So the bot has to handle that. That event handler is what is called the trigger. Once it has handled the event, what should the bot's reaction be? What should the bot act? Maybe the bot is planning to give a response back to the user. Maybe the bot is planning to call another bot. Maybe the bot has to evaluate a conditional statement before it replies to the user. Maybe the bot wants to ask a few follow-up questions. So those are the actions. So we will be building triggers and actions as well. So that's dialogues, triggers, and actions. Cool. All right. So now we are getting into the most exciting part of the session, which is the bot framework composer. And so if I can go to my home here. All right. So this is the bot framework composer. I have downloaded it as a desktop application, and I've just fired it, and this is how it looks at the top, right? You have a main menu bar, a couple of your recent projects there. You'll have a navigation menu here. You'll have a notification section here. You'll have the composer setting. So inside the composer setting, you can set your theme for the composer, etc. You might be interested in this application updates if you wanted to auto update, if you'd like to see preview features up ahead. So those are the composer settings. Now let's get started and create a bot. So where I do that is by using the create new button. So if I hit create new button, just like we did in Visual Studio, so that is how a developer will go about it. Now, how you can go about it is by hitting create new. You will see that you have a lot of templates to choose from. Now, depending on which template you choose, that would be your starting experience. I have chosen C#, though you do have a provision for Node in the preview phase as well. Under C#, again, we don't have to write any C# code inside this. It is just to mean that the code that will be composed by the composer behind the scenes will be in C sharp. So it does not imply that we have to write C sharp code, right? So if you are looking for a C sharp bot, that may be what your developer will be ultimately using to code in maybe C sharp. So you can choose to create an empty bot and read the description on the right hand side. It will tell you what you get from an empty bot. And you have core bots, you have more assistant templates are far more powerful in nature. So for now we will just go with the empty bot. I will just choose an empty bot, and I want to do a Saturday bot. Not a very good name for a bot, but still. And you can see that you can deploy it either to an Azure web app, or you can even deploy it to Azure Functions. So I will choose an Azure web app for now and hit create. So it might take a minute or so, but it will be done. So this version of Bot Framework Composer that we are using is Bot Framework Composer v2.0. This was recently released in May, and one of the most the biggest highlights as far as conversational AI was concerned in Microsoft Build 2021. So lot of new capabilities in Bot Framework Composer 2.0. So if you are using any of the previous versions, I highly encourage you to try out v2.0, which is a lot of leaps in terms of the features and the capabilities, and a lot of things that you can do inside this as well. So while that is getting set up, so you can see that in the background it's getting the runtime and the packages and everything is just being set out for us to start sort of drawing our bot. And
Lindsay, do you want to take any questions?
if we have time to the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I
Okay.
thought you, while it started,
Or
you did. Okay,
sure,
no
sure.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it came back fast. Okay. All right, so let's get started, right? So this is my framework composer. You have the menu on the top. You have the menu on the left hand side. You have the bar on the top, and this is like my solution explorer. You get to see my various dialogues and triggers and actions. We'll get to that soon. And here is my property window to the right hand side. So here I have just created a bot. I'm not touching anything here. I'm just going to start the bot, right? I'm just going to run the bot right ahead. We'll see what we get out of the box in what they said was an empty bot. So we'll see what we get. So you can see that the bot is running, and it says that my bot is running. There are two options for me. Either I can open it in my web chat to interact, to test, or I can test it in the emulator as well. So we saw the emulator previously. We can test it in the emulator, or I can test it in my web chat. So test in web chat means it is a small section within the bot framework composer, within the tool itself, and it shows you. So if you can see that, it's just greeted me, welcome to your bot. Now, we did not write that, right? So let's see where this message, welcome to your bot, is coming from. To go here, interestingly, I get, there are a couple of things that is provided for me out of the box. And let me zoom this in a little so you can see this. So you see that there is a greeting. This lightning symbol that you see here is indication that it is a trigger. Right? So it has already created a trigger for me upfront, which is a greeting trigger. And you can, non-developers, you can skip this area. It is just the logic to show that you have to greet a new member. And this is where it is sending a response. If you can read this, send a response, and the text is welcome to your bot. Now, I'm not happy with welcome to your bot. Let's say, hey there. And I will just run my bot. But another thing with bots, is usually some of the things we hear from bots is the bots are very monotonous, they're very automatic, and it seems very programmed. So one of the things that you can do in here is you can provide alternate responses. What that means is, depending on different times, again, you can you can do this in various ways. You can look at the time of the day and you can greet it according to that: good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So here I'm just putting in some random responses, and I can actually throw in all these responses, and uh, I'll show you what is going to be the result of this, right? So you can add alternatives as many as you want. And I'm just going to restart my bot. And I will test the same thing once again in my web chat, and we'll see what the response is. So previously what we saw was a welcome message, and instead of the welcome message, restart it, what I'm getting now is hola. So that is what one of my users might get, or I might get at one point in time. Another person might get hey there. Another person might get hola, hi there, etc. So you see that there is it is not very robotic in nature, and you can really randomize your responses. And there's not a single line of code that I wrote for this functionality, right? So let's make this a little more interesting. So I have the initial greeting by the bot, and the bot can, if you can see this, it's a very diagrammatic flow chart sort of. You can add any kind of components to this flow. So one thing you can do, if I click the plus symbol there, you will see that you can send a response, you can ask a question, you can create conditions if you want to branch this out, you can loop, do dialogue management, access external. It's quite powerful, right? Quite powerful. So let's ask it a question, and I want to ask the user a question. Say, let's say my name is Linda. What's your name? Okay, so if I ask that to my user, I'm hoping that the user is going to answer that question. And in so when I said that there are two blocks that got added, in the first block I'm going to ask the question, and this is the user input. Now the user input, I would like to store it in some property so that I can greet the user back. So there are various ways you can store that. I am going to store it in because this is very centric to the user, I can store it in the user's context. So there are various contexts. Again, there is user's context, dialogue context, conversation context. We won't go into the details of all of that. We just show you the capabilities around. So I've asked the user a question: what is your name? And whatever response the user gives me, I'm going to store it in user.name. And obviously, I would like to respond back to the user. I'd like to say, hoping that the user is going to give me a name, nice to meet you. And again, I'm not going to write down this piece of code. If you look here, I can get down to the actual property name. So nice to meet you. That dollar braces is not something that you need to remember if you don't want to. You can simply pick it out from this area itself. Now let's run the bot and see what we have thus far. Right. So what we have done is we have a bot that is going to greet the user, and once it has greeted the user, it is going to ask the user for the name. Hey there, my name is Linda. What's your name? Again, it can if you see, it can be totally randomized. My name is Linda. What's your name? If I say Liji, nice to meet you, Liji. Right. So as simple as that. Now. I can do a lot of things like this, call and so on. So one of the things that I can do is I can begin a new dialogue. I want to show you around one of the bots that I have created for the sake of time. You can actually, that same greeting bot I have actually extended. And one of the things that we wanted to do is, for example, you want to create a bot where the user will ask the bot to tell me a joke, right? So that's, believe it or not, that's one of the most common things that people ask a chatbot, irrespective of whatever your chatbot is intended to do. It might be serving a business process, it might be used to for rocket science, but if you send it out to the user, one of the most common questions that any user would ask your bot is, tell me a joke. So what I have done is I have created a trigger. Now, how I have created that trigger is, you can go here and you can add a new trigger. So, or maybe I can just show you around one of the bots that I have created that. So it just saves us some time, and this one, right? So If I go to my demo bot, I can right click and I can add a new trigger. But before you add a new trigger, I would recommend if you come here and set regular expression recognizer. So you can just type in your queries as such. So add a new trigger. And I want to say joke. Okay. And the person can ask me this in various ways. You can say, tell me a joke. You can simply type joke. So what those various expressions are, just separated by using the pipe symbol. And like that, I have created a dialogue of that sort. And here's where I can create a new dialogue as well. So let me show you that around. You can go here, you can add a dialogue. So why would you create different dialogues? If you want to have reusable components within your conversation at any point of time, it's not, a person would not ask you to tell a joke immediately after the greeting, right? A person can ask you to tell a joke at any point in the conversation, and at any point you should be able to bring in that dialogue. So that's why I want to keep it as a separate dialogue. So I have created a separate dialogue of that sort, and this is how it looks. Only thing in this dialogue, instead of keeping it to myself, I have called an external API. So if you go here, you can access external resources, you can send an HTTP request. So using that concept, I have called this external resource. So this is an unauthenticated free public domain API that was available. And I am getting the bot's response and I am storing it in a variable, and I'm sending the response back to the user. It's as simple as that. Only thing, this was a dialogue. It was not a part of the main flow itself. I chose to keep it as a dialogue. When will this dialogue be invoked? It will be invoked anytime the person says, tell me a joke. Okay, let me change this. Tell me a joke, or let's even keep it joke. Right. So let's run the bot and see that. So now we have kind of come full circle in terms of trigger, and once any of these phrases are triggered, it knows which dialogue to call, and so on and so forth. So let me see if I call a joke, and if it's great. So it says, how did the programmer die in the shower? He read the shampoo bottle instructions, lather, rinse, repeat. I don't know if that's a good joke, but that's what it said. If you observe one more thing here, it asked me, what is your name? I did not respect that. I went ahead and asked it to tell me a joke. It did not take joke as a name. What a typical bot would have done is, my name is Linda, what's your name? If I typed in joke, it would tell you, nice to meet you, joke. It did not say that. It went ahead, respected what I asked it to do, and it came back and asked me the same question again. So interruptions were very elegantly handled, and I'll tell you how. It's a very, very simple thing to do. I'll show you how. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. Another thing, I can keep asking it, and it will keep asking me what is my name, etc., etc. One of the most common things that you should be having as part of your bot is a help command. A help command is, even if it's a very simple bot, please arrange for a help command. But see, even after I do help, it is going to ask me for this. What you can do is provision for a cancel command. So if you put cancel, you're going to come out of that loop itself. So how I have done that is, I've had a cancel dialogue in place, just like I've had a help dialogue. I've had a cancel dialogue in place. And to show you how that interruptions were handled, so this is where I need my bot responses for the name. Here there is a property, allow interruptions true. It is by default, it is false. I have just changed it to true, right? So this is the level of things that you can do within a bot framework composer. It's left entirely up to you, and you can sort of really work around this thing and see how much you can see. You can see the specific bot responses, the knowledge bases. Here you have the publish section where you can publish it to your Azure Bot Service. So a lot of things that you can actually do with the bot framework composer. Okay, so let me go back to my section, and before we wind it up, I will just give you one more run on certain concepts inside the bot framework composer. Right? So off the bat, when you interact with a bot, you might think you asked it something, it gave you an answer, right? But there's under the hoods, there is a lot that is happening. A chatbot is only the face of artificial intelligence. Behind that, there is a lot of work that is happening. So, first thing, it has to understand what the user is asking. It should know what to respond. Without understanding, it will never know what to respond. So, there are so many services that are available from Microsoft itself, intelligent services that can be used for working this around. Like you have Luis, language understanding service, Q&A maker is another. These are all built-in services that are available from Microsoft. If you're familiar with Azure Cognitive Services, these are some of the Azure Cognitive Services, right? So similar to that, I want to say that there are so many services that are available from Microsoft, and this is how a chatbot really works. It is not a simple question and get an answer. There is a lot of work that happens behind that, in addition to the fact that it will, call external APIs or your business specific APIs. Now, the reason I call this out is if you need to connect to a Luis or to a Q&A maker, which is your knowledge base, you don't have the capability to put all the answers within your bot framework composer. You need an external database to do that. That is your Q&A maker. So these can be also done using your bot framework composer, right? So you can connect to these intelligent services, especially to Luis and to Q&A maker. You have sections for that. Last concept is about a skill. Though we have not created a skill, it's a very important part of the bot framework composer. So what a user is dealing with firsthand is a root bot or the customer facing bot, right? Behind the bot can also delegate it to other bots. One bot can call another bot, like a weather bot or travel bot or a time bot, a date bot. And the reason why these secondary bots are created, so the secondary bots are what are called skills. The reason they're created as skills is because those same skills can be used by multiple bots. So it's just a concept that you may be interested in, because you can also create skills using bot framework composer. So you can create skills, you can create skill consumers or root bots, and it's a very, very powerful capability. All that said and done, what is our number one priority when designing a bot? I would say it is the conversational experience. So it is just like you say, it is the user experience. I would say it is the conversational user experience. We need to really look at, are you building, are you making the user's life easier? Are you having engagement in a way that's better, faster, easier? Is it there? Is it very easy for the user to use your bot? Is discoverability easy? Are you really guiding the user? So that conversational experience is very important for the success of your bot, aside from all the technology and the features that you use. If we don't have a great conversational experience, your users are not going to stay engaged. Okay. And so that is the summary. We just looked at the history of conversational AI, Microsoft Conversational AI, the bot framework composer, the demos, and I'm happy to open it up for Q&A if we have any. And let's take it, Dinesh.
Yes, of course, we have questions listed. Let me just post it one after the other. So first, PR Bhargavi has asked, is it possible to create live chatbot also with this? I think it was asked around the time 7:26. So I think it was listed uh, based on your slide.
Yeah.
Is it possible to
Is it
create live chatbot
possible to
also with
create live chatbot also with this? Okay. So I'm assuming the question is, can you create a chatbot that will have a live experience, as in with a live customer experience? You can create chatbots that will do a human handoff to a live customer service. So that is again with third party services, external system integration. You can do that, where the bot will maybe greet the user, take for a question, and at some point in time, there is an escalation that needs to happen. The bot cannot does not know the answer to the user's query or would like to hand it off to a human agent. That can happen. Yes. Does this SDK
it?
available in Python also? So bot framework SDK is available in Python if you want to go down the code first approach. But inside bot framework composer, for now we have only C# and Node is in preview. Possibly Python may come in the near future, but Today, we have only for C Sharp and Node, which is in preview. Yes, Google Dialogflow and Azure Bot both are the same. The intention is the same. Both are expected to, sort of help build dialogues, and the same concept is the same to build around chatbots. Dialogflow is obviously a Google's offering, and Azure Bot Service or Bot Framework Composer is from Azure, from Microsoft. I'm sorry. So that answers your question.
So,
I
so,
want to
so
do
read
one
through this,
thing.
and I think there is another question as well. Yeah, please read.
Yeah. I want to do one thing, like if I run a website and the website doesn't have API developed for that in terms of API, but I have to develop a chatbot for that. So every chatbot need not be connected to an API, right? You can create, for example, you have a set of questions, maybe in your PDF or maybe in an Excel sheet, and you have 10 or 15 questions that these are what will be asked to the chatbot, and this is the answers that the chatbot should give. What you can do is you can create your own database, your own knowledge base. So that is what is called Q&A maker, right? You can create your own knowledge base in Q&A maker. It's again from Microsoft, it's from Azure. You can go to qandmaker.ai and you can create your knowledge base there. Once you create it, what you can do is you will get an API, you'll get an endpoint, you'll get a key. Use that and just put it inside your bot framework composer, inside your configuration settings. You can connect directly to your Q&A maker. So Q&A maker itself will, behind the scenes, it will create your database. It will expose an API for you. So you don't have to worry about creating an API if you don't have one. Totally fine. You can rest on these kinds of intelligence services to help you. How can I extract data from that website and send to chatbot? So if you have a website, right, for example, there are two ways you can do this. One, you have a website which has a good FAQ page. All your major question answers are already there in the FAQ page. What you can do is that FAQ URL itself, you can give it to this Q&A maker service that I'm talking about. I should probably do a session on Q&A maker for sure. So Q&A maker is a very powerful service. If you go to qandmaker.ai, I can just put the link in the comments section. And I don't have access to comments. Okay. qandmaker.ai, if you go there, there are various ways in which it will extract content. You can either upload a PDF. If you upload a PDF, it will automatically extract questions, answers, put it in the database. Or if you give it a URL, your website URL of your FAQ pages, it will because it's very intelligent service, it will extract questions and answers and it will keep it. Now, if it is not an FAQ page, you want to look at an entire website itself. You want a chatbot to crawl one entire website. You might want to use another service from Microsoft that's called Bing Custom Search. What Bing Custom Search does is just like your normal Bing search, but it is custom to only your domain. You are telling your Bing Custom Search to only look within your domain abc.com. It will not go and search anywhere else. So once you tie to that Bing Custom Search site, that you can use that API and tell the chatbot to use this Bing Custom Search API. So if you remember our slide on intelligent services, how a chatbot works, which is why I introduced all those services. You don't have an API of your own. You don't have a business API. You don't have an external API. You can make use of all those ready-made APIs that are available from Microsoft to work around your case. Yes, Dinesh. Which deep learning algorithm used to build the Azure Bot Framework Composer? Good. Azure Bot Framework Composer, the tool that we saw is, I think it's an Electron application, the desktop application that we just downloaded. Behind the scenes, what is actually working, even including all the cognitive services that we talked about. Yes, it is based on very powerful ML algorithms like the language understanding service, and all those are very intelligent services. But as we said, it belongs to a class of what we call pre-built AI services. So these are simply AI services that developer community can ping, and they can just invoke those APIs. For the same reason, it is a black box for us. So we do not know the specifics of how those algorithms have been created, but I can give you the history. This comes out of decades of research that the Microsoft research teams, MSR teams, have done across the globes. So if you are using PowerPoint today or Excel today or Outlook, you might note a few AI services inside that, right? So those AI services were actually from these cognitive services. So what they did ultimately, they did not only use it in their own applications, the Microsoft applications, they open sourced it, they put it in front of the developers. Of course, there's a fee for that. Pay as you go is a cognitive services thing, but we can also leverage those to create intelligent applications, because if we had to create those services from scratch, like you said, it will take a lot of skill set, and it will take a lot of time, energy, and effort to this one. So we do not know the details of the exact deep learning algorithms that are used behind these services. Once productionized a bot, how can we ensure our bot is doing a good job around? Great. So if you remember the bot development life cycle, at the far end, we had an evaluate phase. So in the evaluate phase is what you do is, inside the Azure Bot Service, you can connect it to another Azure resource that is called, you can turn on the App Insights. So what App Insights does is it collects all the telemetry, means whatever conversation the user and the bot is having, whatever interaction is they are going, automatically that entire chat transcript is being handled or is being captured by these, and it is being sent. You can either store it in your data factory, or through your data factory you can store it in your databases. If you want to look at reporting and analytics, you can push that to your Power BI report, so you get a report of what are those answered queries, unanswered queries, etc. The only point I would add is that we need to build very responsible AI solutions. So please take care of the privacy and the security aspect of it. Let your customers know if you are taking data or you're capturing those conversations and all those parts. Otherwise, you have the technology to be able to do this. App Insights and Power BI. Is there a way to curate bot using a set of questions answers in a CSV format? I believe yes. So qnamaker.ai. If you go to qnamaker.ai, you can today import a document. I need to check if CSV is one of the formats for Q&A Maker. I do know that PDF and Excel is a supported format. So let's read the issue. You have TXT, TSV, and XLS files. So these are the document formats. You can import those documents into Q&A Maker, and Q&A Maker will structure the question answers for you. It will provide you the API, the endpoint, the key, which your bot can call, and the bot will be able to answer these questions. Creating bots is a task of data engineer or data scientist? Okay, that's a slightly controversial question, but let's see. I'd say anyone or everyone can actually create a bot. Like, as I said, if you have a use case, in my organization, I've had my friends who's got nothing to do on the technical side, a complete non-techie, who's on management roles, but this one, they have created bots to automate their tasks, to help them be more productive at work, to be able to do their job better. So it depends on how you use technology, right? So if you have a personal use case, even if not a business use case, and you are looking, and if you think a bot is the right solution to that, a chatbot may not, as glossy as it may not be the right solution for every problem. Right? If your problem is something that a chatbot can solve, you need not be a data engineer or a data scientist today. And that is the most beautiful aspect of it. Microsoft specifically is at the forefront of what we call democratization of AI services. Previously, if I had to do this, I needed to at least have a PhD. I needed to have the skill sets. I needed to learn the ML algorithms, and without which I would not be able to, create powerful, sophisticated experiences like this. Today, if I need to do this, you can even be a non-technical person. To a certain extent, you can build a decent, good experience, if you need to have the end, really powerful capabilities, you can be even a software engineer to be able to do that. If beyond that, if you want to build your own custom natural language models and things like that, that's when you would appreciate having a data engineer or data scientist in the team. A data engineer will definitely help in terms of deriving the insights and all on the evaluation phase of it, and those aspects. So I always say it takes a village to raise a bot. So if you remember the bot that we talked about, that is not just the development team. And if you know Cortana from Microsoft, so that team had psychologists, it had writers. You typically have people from literature and psychology and life sciences background to actually build your bot. So it's a collective effort, and it's not really the task of only one skill set or one specific role. Sorry, my answer was too long on that. What is the role of data scientist in chatbot development? Great. So that's, I think I answered that a little previously. So for chatbot development, one of the most important aspects of chatbot development is natural language understanding, NLU capabilities, and natural language understanding as well as natural language processing capabilities. Some of the services, one of the services that we typically use in this regard is language understanding service, LUIS, LUIS. If you go to LUIS.ai, that is a service that is available from Microsoft. So as I said, a developer does not have to know the ins and outs of it. You can just consume LUIS, and you can figure out the intent of the user's query, etc. Now, but beyond that, if you want to build your own natural language models, and you want to you have very, very powerful natural language models these days, you want to integrate that with your own custom models you want to build, definitely a data scientist on the team can help and build powerful experiences. How can I integrate the bot anywhere like Blogger or WordPress? How long will it take to integrate? Okay, so with Blogger, some of the channels that we discussed from Microsoft, from Azure Bot Service, if you note, there was Slack, there was Twitter, there was in Teams, web chat, even Alexa. We can even put it on WhatsApp these days. If you want to create a custom channel, if you want to put it on Blogger, or if you want to put it on WordPress or any of the other custom channel, you can see if they have support for the web chat. The web chat is an iframe, really. If you look at the web chat channel, if you select web chat, what you get is an iframe. So if it has the ability to host an iframe inside these platforms, well and great. Otherwise, you can also create your own custom channels, because the SDK is really extensive. User is typing long sentence. How bot will understand the theme or context of the paragraph and respond properly? Great question. So that is where the power of natural language understanding comes into play. You are absolutely, sometimes the user will type very long sentences. Sometimes the user will type one word, like not even a proper request, just like one word is all that a user will type. And it can be very difficult for the bot to comprehend what the user is saying. So if you remember our visual on how a bot works, the first thing that the bot should ideally do is understand what the user is asking. Because if you don't understand the context, the syntax, the semantics, you're not going to do a great job with producing a great result. The best service that is available for us in this regard is LUIS, LUIS.ai. If you go to www.luis.ai, so that has got very powerful features that will help you understand the intent of the user's greeting. Right? So, for example, in a greeting itself, I can tell the bot, "Hey," and the bot is programmed to tell me, "Hey." The bot should also understand that I can say hi, hello, hola, whatever. So whatever I tell, it should understand that, oh, this lady meant it is a greeting. Because if it does not understand that, for each and every phrase, I cannot say hey, say hey, say hey. Right? So all these phrases, or the what we typically call user utterances, can be provided to the bot, and those phrases can be mapped to a certain intent, which would be the greeting intent, and the bot would be trained. So the training and retraining of the bot is very important. All of this is done inside Luis.ai. So we haven't covered Luis.ai in this session because it was about bot framework composer. But just so you asked, Luis.ai will be an area that you will be interested in. Try it out. You can teach your bot, train your bot on how to understand what the users ask is.
So I think there are no questions, but we have a set of comments.
Okay. All right. That was great. That was probably the longest Q&A round that I had, but I'm so happy for seeing all those questions. Thank you, all of you.
Yeah.
Yes,
By the way,
Bhargavi. I
Bhargavi
will
is
definitely
expecting a
work on a
Q&A
Q&A
meeting
meeting
session.
as well. Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
We can
Thank you, guys.
expect some GOP.
Sure. If you have any more questions, folks, feel free to ask me to connect with me either on Twitter or on LinkedIn. You can just look up for Liji Thomas and you can ask me your questions after that as well. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thanks for an informative session around chatbox, Lucy. Your session started from chatbox or not something new. Different real use cases that most of us would have not aware of. And you thought through about the myths around chatbots and then a clear-cut step-by-step demo in broad framework processor to kickstart creating a simple bot and elegantly make that bot mature step by step. Finally, you also ended up listing out other services that are available, with which on the whole you can create even an enterprise bot as well. Once again, thanks for your session, Lizzie, and thanks for all the attendees for having having spent your time. And by the way, as always, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you'll be getting notified about the future events as well. Thanks, everyone. Yeah,
Thank you all. Take care. Enjoy your Saturday. Thank you. Bye bye.